You're looking at Joe Burrow being the guy that I was in on the beginning of the year. Clearly, that is no longer an option. So where are we looking on this board? And I keep landing on the same thing, which is, Baker Mayfield's been kind of the story this year. Think about this. He's plus 950 for MVP. They look like right now one of the, if not the most formidable team in the NFC.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Great quarterback, the best quarterback in football. But when you play a 60-minute game of football on national TV and the referees do not call a single penalty against you when you committed 13 penalties the week before in a nationally televised loss, I'm sorry, but the jig is up.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
I apologize to our fans. We need to do better. That's all you need to say, Scott, right? But yeah. Tua goes out there, my kids love me, I'm rich, I don't care. You got your dumbass coach coming out here, and we play to win. You got to win the game, and you got to win. And, the Dolphins press conferences make it way worse. If I was a Dolphin fan, I just want to punch these guys in the face.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on Sports.
Welcome to another edition of the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone A. Johnson here, as always. Today is Wednesday, November 14th or something like that. 15th, yeah. October 15th.
October 15th. October 15th.
I know today is a very special day in sports, and I'm being put in the unenviable position and be given the unenviable task of supporting a Philadelphia athlete who's under fire right now. This is not something I ordinarily do, but there's crazy stuff happening in your town, Tyrone.
Yeah, I know.
Regarding the Philadelphia Eagles. So let me give you the macro view of what's going on right now in Philadelphia. Philly has Minnesota this weekend. They're small favorites in this game, coming off the Thursday night loss and all the extra time to prepare for Carson Wentz in Minnesota. And then after that, they get the rematch against the New York Giants in Philly, and then the bye week. Here's the reality that I'll give you from a Philly sports perspective. If the Eagles don't win both these games against Minnesota and the New York Giants, their season comes to an end. I know they'll be 4-4. I know they'll still be alive for a wild card, and based on what Washington and Dallas does, even still alive statistically and record-wise to win the division, but it'll be a wrap. The second half of their schedule is like a murderer's row. It's Detroit, it's Green Bay, it's Chicago, it's 2 games in 3 weeks against Washington. It is a very, very tough schedule. But that's not the point of where I come into the conversation today. I just want to make set the table for you that you have to win. The Minnesota game and the New York game next 2 weeks are must-win games for the Eagles, or there will be no defense whatsoever of their Super Bowl championship of last year. I'd go so far as to say, if they don't win both games, Minnesota and New York, the Philadelphia Eagles are not going to make the playoffs. So let that sink in for a second. Defending Super Bowl champions on the verge of being eliminated going into the bye week. That's on the table. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm here today because I'm a good guy. I'm here today because, much like Superman, my job in life is to right the wrongs of other big-mouth broadcasters on both television and radio. And I guess we could add podcasts to that because I'm doing one as well. That's my lot in life, to correct mistakes other people make by pointing out the obvious facts. And here's what I'm getting at. There's a growing sentiment in Philadelphia from people that are A, Eagles fans, and B, have covered the Eagles for a very, very long time, that the best quarterback in Philadelphia is Tanner McKee, not Jalen Hurts, the Super Bowl MVP. For those of you that don't know Tanner McKee, I think he's played 2 games. in mop-up
Mop-up
duty.
duty, yeah.
Or you're late in the season, we call it mop-up duty, when you're locked into your playoff spot and you want to make sure your starting quarterback doesn't get hurt. And when I heard that this week, that there are Philadelphia Eagle fans that think the offense's problems are not Kevin Patullo's, are not the head coaches, are not, I don't know, Saquon Barkley's, but solely rest on the shoulders of Jalen Hurts, I got to slap myself in the face and go, you people are crazy. Why the disrespect? Jalen Hurts is not only a Super Bowl champion, he's a Super Bowl MVP. Let's get into the numbers just a little bit. The rationale for the anti-Hurts people is that he hasn't thrown for 300 yards in a game yet. That's factual. Mm-hmm. He has as many games this year under 200 yards as he does over 200 yards. Factual. Only 8 touchdowns 5 weeks into the season. Factual. And offensively, they're not scoring a lot of points. All of that is legitimate. I can't argue those stats, but when you cherry pick stats, you make the mistake of leaving other stats out that automatically defeat your argument. Like this. He, yes, only has 8 touchdowns, but he also only has 1 interception.
Correct.
He's not turning the ball over like a lot of bad quarterbacks do. Mm-hmm. Completion percentage. A bit of an overrated stat because if I just keep dumping the ball off, I have a high percentage rate. But he's throwing at 68%. That's his completion rate thus far on the year. I'm not a quarterback rating guy. A lot of you are. He has a quarterback rating over 100. And oh, by the way, they're 4-2. Nobody's talking about how Saquon Barkley is only averaging 3.3 yards a carry. Nobody's talking about how Saquon Barkley is averaging 50 some odd yards per game. The single biggest drop from one year to the next from a running back standpoint, running for 2,000 yards last year, and now he's averaging 50 yards a game this year and doesn't have 400 yards 5 games into the season. You have a mercurial at best, crazy talented wide receiver who's clearly a problem in A.J. Brown, and the Eagles are still suffering, I think, from a little Super Bowl hangover. Your best defensive player has missed 2 out of your 5 games. One because he spit in Dak Prescott's face, talking about Jalen Carter. Yep. And the other game because he had a heel problem and they didn't want to play him on the turf at MetLife Stadium. So he's missed 40% of your games thus far, making it easier to run against the Eagles defense. But I'm trying to figure out why Philadelphia can't embrace success. And that's the reality of you people in Philadelphia. You have a guy that's going to go down in your history, if you let him, as the greatest quarterback you ever had. And I'm a Randall Cunningham guy. Randall never won a Super Bowl. They lost that playoff game in Chicago in the fog. That was their best bet to get to and win a Super Bowl. And I think Randall changed the way the quarterback position is played and belongs in the Eagles Hall of Fame. Jalen Hurts is better at quarterbacking. Right? Donovan McNabb, 5 NFC championship games, something like that?
And 1 Super Bowl appearance.
Great quarterback, went to a Super Bowl, almost won that Super Bowl, didn't. Not as good as Jalen Hurts. And I'm sitting back going, I'm a New Yorker. I dislike most things about Philadelphia. Philly and I have a love-hate relationship and have since 1993. But the reality is that you guys are going to now try to run your best quarterback your franchise has ever had. You're trying to run him out of town for Tanner McKee. And no disrespect to Tanner McKee. Tanner McKee is not yet an NFL player. No. He had a couple games in the course of his short career. He's a cancer survivor. It's a great story how he made it to the NFL. Mm-hmm. But how in the world can you go on the radio, TV podcast, or hang out with your friends in a sports bar and make the argument, without it being a joke, that Tanner McKee is a better quarterback than the Super Bowl MVP? It doesn't make sense. You don't deserve Jalen Hurts. You don't. If I was you want to trade Jalen Hurts for Jackson Dart?
I don't.
Of course you don't. You're smart. Eagle fans might want to do that.
They might.
You want to trade him for Justin Fields?
Absolutely not.
You want to trade him for the Jets pick in the upcoming draft?
No. Although I do like Francisco Mendoza.
Because Jalen Hurts is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I'll tell you something right now. If you people in Philadelphia try to run that cat out of town, there are 20 NFL teams right now today that would trade you their first-round draft pick and their current quarterback to get Jalen Hurts because he's that good. Now, if you want to focus your ire at Sirianni, feel free.
Yeah,
if you
I
want to
agree.
focus your ire at the offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, feel free. If you want to talk about the best offensive line in football not playing like it, feel free. If you want to ask Saquon Barkley what the hell happened, feel free. And I know the stats aren't there. He's not competing yards-wise or touchdown-wise with like Matthew Stafford, Mahomes, and the other top
Mayfield,
quarterbacks.
yeah.
But the dude doesn't turn the ball over, and he runs the plays that Patullo's giving him. I'm telling you, you don't deserve Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. You don't. And as much as you won the Super Bowl last year and you celebrated it and you keep saying that stupid phrase, Jean.
John is a great saying.
Well, I don't even know what. Look, I got
It's
to
everything.
Philly in 1993. Not a single Philadelphian used the term Jean.
That's not
That
true.
is a new invention.
It's not a new
That's a new
invention.
invention.
No, it's
It's
not.
a side story, but I can't stand
Not a
it.
new. John's great.
Look, I love your soft pretzels. I
They're
love
great.
your water ice.
Very good.
It's two of the greatest things I've ever eaten in my life. But you guys are completely out of your minds if you're trying to run Jalen Hurts out of town, or if you want to convince somebody that Tanner effing McKee is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. I'm telling you something right now, Philly. I know it hurt that the Phillies got eliminated on a boneheaded play by a pitcher in the ninth inning against the Dodgers, right?
Yes, it
I
did
get
hurt.
that.
It did hurt.
I know it hurts that the Flyers have sucked for a long time.
That does
I know
hurt.
it hurts that the Sixers are going to lose more than 50 games this year.
Nope.
But, man, you got to get this one right. You better hold on to Jalen Hurts with the strongest bear hug you've ever held on to another man with, and thank your lucky stars that he's your starting quarterback. I'll let Tyrone comment in a second. We got a great show for you today. Don't you dare touch it. We got more coming next.
Well, the best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reese and his literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Baker Mayfield is the most important player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they are in first place right now, looking dead in the eye of home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They played a bad division. They're going to win a lot of games, and they're the best fourth quarter team, or at least the 2-minute warning team in all football. So, don't sleep on that.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Awesome and monumentous win against Oregon. Texas has saved their season. Texas has given themselves life to potentially crash the college football playoff party. For OU, a loss to Texas shouldn't be the end of your season. And yet with that remaining schedule, it feels like it could be. Books certainly pricing it that way. A lot of movement off of the Red River rivalry.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Paige or Caitlin? Who do you take and why?
I think for the WNBA, in a sense where they're moving toward more guards when it's been very post and big heavy in the past. But there's a reason why Caitlin Clark set all those records at college and then went into the WNBA and set all those records immediately. I really do think she's just a different level talent.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyron A. Johnson here as well. One quick note of a serious nature. Dear friend of mine and friend of the show and former New York Jet legend and center Nick Mangold went public yesterday on social media that he's in dire need of a kidney transplant. He has a genetic defect that's led to chronic kidney disease. He's known about this for a long time. You see his statement there up on the screen. He's type O blood.
Yeah.
No one in his family matches his blood type, so his family can't be tested
Right.
to see if they're a good match from just based on blood type. He's a husband, a dad, has young kids at home as well. He and I live within about a half hour of each other, and I've gotten to know Nick very, very well, and it's just aces across the board. A really, really sweet man and a good guy. Forget about the football aspect of it, but he's a Jet Ring of Honor member and only played for the New York Jets over the course of 11 years of his storied career after being drafted 29th overall, and he needs a kidney. So a lot of people in his life are doing what I'm doing right now and putting it out there. If you have ever thought of being an organ donor, if you have considered while alive giving a kidney, because you can do that, obviously, definitely reach out. It's all over social media.
Yeah.
And on behalf of everyone here on the show, obviously wish him Godspeed, and we say our thoughts and prayers to Nick and his family. But he's in a bad spot right now.
Yeah.
And hopefully somebody will come forward. Either it's an organ donor, someone who loses their life that is an organ donor, and the kidneys are a match, the blood type's a match, or it's someone willing to attempt to give one of your 2 healthy kidneys to help Nick prosper and live on. So that's just a note I want to put out there.
Yeah.
Because this is when we forget at times, myself included, you included, Tyrone, that they're not robots.
That are people.
We always view, I think, a lot of us, pro athletes as robots, especially because in football, you got the uniform on. We don't even see your face when you're playing. But at the end of the day, they go home. They're just like us with more money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what it is. So I really feel for Nick. Obviously, this is something that doesn't come out of the blue for him. And again, if you're a type O blood and you've ever thought of giving a kidney and being an organ donor, definitely look into Nick's story and find out where you can go to be tested and reach out to Nick and his family. So I want to put that out.
And one note, I lost a friend named Melissa McGuigan. I had been in school with her since 2nd grade in 2023 while she was awaiting a lung transplant. There's one thing if you want to give when you pass away.
Sure.
You must inform your family. Even if you have filled out everything, if you do not inform your family and they say no, then they do not take the organs. It's very important that if you make that choice, this is not just for this case, this is in general. Please make sure you inform your family so that then they're allowed to then harvest the organs. They will not do it if the family's not on board.
And my only soapbox comment on this is there's no reason not to do it. If you put it on your driver's license, organ donor, you're dead, your organs can save lives. So obviously thoughts and prayers go out to Nick Mangold and his family. Hard to transition off of that, obviously. But there is an interesting thing happening in college football right now. Because of the Penn State opening, James Franklin, who is going to get another job and probably get a job very quickly, because despite his failures at Penn State and the joy I got out of watching Penn State lose all those games against top 10 ranked teams, what was he, 4-50 against top 10 ranked teams?
Something like that.
And this little 3-week stretch has been embarrassingly bad, losing to Northwestern, going backwards, UCLA, and then the double overtime loss against Oregon. James Franklin's a good coach.
He is.
If I'm a struggling program, especially if I'm a lower-rung Big Ten or SEC school, and I want a guy that knows how to win and rebuild a program, James Franklin would be tops on my list because he did that at Penn State. Penn State wasn't very good when he got there, and it's one of those things where you kind of get, what's the word I'm looking for? Tainted by success.
Yes, you do.
There are 90% of the Division I colleges in America would sign up for what James Franklin's done the last decade at Penn State.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed watching him lose big games, but not because I don't like James Franklin. I respect James Franklin. I hate Penn State because of the Sandusky stuff.
Right.
And I'll never waver on that. I want them to lose at every sport they participate in every single year. But I appreciate and respect what James Franklin did there. Winning 11 games multiple times, 12 games, 13, going to a national championship, although losing it. James Franklin can coach football. And if I'm a struggling program in a major conference, I would call James Franklin yesterday to bring him in here and help fix my program. That being said, there's a specific name out there that is now being mentioned for every pending opening or current opening. Penn State's open. We believe Florida's going to fire Napier. There's going to be opportunities for major programs to bring in coaches, right?
Auburn looks like that one's going to open. There's a lot of them that looks like they're going to open.
Like blue blood football programs that are going to need head coaches. Well, the name that keeps coming out baffles me. Not because he's not good. I love this guy, but because of where he's at. So Marcus Freeman, the head coach at Notre Dame, I want to be clear, He could coach my kids and my team any day of the week. I have a lot of respect for Marcus Freeman. I think he's a really good coach, right?
Yeah.
Marcus Freeman is coaching at the preeminent college in America for football, whether we like it or not, and I hate it. I hate Notre Dame with the passion of 1,000 suns. But, man, I like Marcus Freeman.
Yeah.
Marcus Freeman coaching Notre Dame made me lessen my dislike for Notre Dame.
I agree with you.
By 2 or 3-fold.
I agree with you.
Because he's a likable dude, and I like what he stands for. And by the way, he had one of the great recruiting classes in the last year and a half of any school in America, and half that recruiting class has the DNA of former NFL stars. Yep. All right? That being said, Marcus Freeman is now being mentioned as a front runner for the Penn State job and every other major job that's open. The other name is Lane Kiffin, because Lane Kiffin is like a Rolling Stone, right? He likes to move around a lot. My gut is he stays at Ole Miss. He makes a lot of money. His family's there. He's reunited with his wife. Why leave Ole Miss? You can compete every year at Ole Miss, right? But Marcus Freeman, if I'm Penn State, would I want him? 100% yes. I think he's a badass coach. But when people talk about Marcus Freeman leaving Notre Dame for Penn State, it's like you're unwilling to actually do a teeny bit of research and open up a book or go online and find out his contractual status. Marcus Freeman is one of the 10 highest paid coaches in all of college football. He signed a 4-year, $9 million a year extension literally in December of last year. The ink on that contract is barely dry. He signed it 10 months ago, and he's a top 10 paid coach in college football. If you're Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame recruits as better or better than, how do I?
As good or better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Notre Dame, edit that out. Notre Dame recruits as good or better than any program in the country, and you're making more money than almost every coach in the country.
Yeah.
Why would you leave Notre Dame for Penn State? It doesn't make sense. Marcus Freeman's a great coach, but he is not Penn State's next coach because he ain't leaving Notre Dame. More coming up after this. I'll fix my lips and tongue and mouth.
Oh, the best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reese and his literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Baker Mayfield is the most important player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they are in first place right now, looking dead in the eye of home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They played a bad division. They're going to win a lot of games, and they're the best fourth quarter team, or at least the 2-minute warning team in all football. So, don't sleep on that.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Awesome and monumentous win against Oregon. Texas has saved their season. Texas has given themselves life to potentially crash the college football playoff party. For OU, a loss to Texas shouldn't be the end of your season. And yet with that remaining schedule, it feels like it could be. Books certainly pricing it that way. A lot of movement off of the Red River rivalry.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Paige or Caitlin? Who do you take and why?
I think for the WNBA, in a sense where they're moving toward more guards when it's been very post and big heavy in the past. But there's a reason why Caitlin Clark set all those records at college and then went into the WNBA and set all those records immediately. I really do think she's just a different level talent.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. I'm just going over the math again. Phillies 4-2. You have Carson Wentz this week. If your defense can't stop Carson Wentz, you might as well fold up anyway. And then you get a second crack at Jackson Dart and the New York Giants. I mean, you got to be 6-2. At 6-2, you can get through, the final, the second half of the season after the bye week. If you're 4-4, it is a wrap for Philly. And yet Philly fans don't seem all that mad at Nick Sirianni. They seem mad at Jalen Hurts. Like, all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts has done something wrong.
Yeah, there's
That's weird.
One note with the schedule. The Eagles have the third toughest schedule left. But
what?
There is a but. It does matter in this case.
Go ahead.
You know who has the toughest remaining schedule?
Don't matter to me.
The Dallas Cowboys in their division.
I'm not worried about Dallas.
Hold on.
You're worried about Washington, even though they lost to Chicago.
You know who has the fourth toughest division?
Let me guess, Washington.
And you know who has the fifth? The Giants. It's because the NFC East is playing their cross matchups against a very tough division. That's part of the reason. While this may eliminate them from the wild card, they can still win a division even if they lost both of the next two games.
Well, you got
because of what you have.
You got a 1-game lead over Washington because they lost to Chicago.
And you still play them twice.
You have essentially a half-game lead over Dallas.
Like a 1 game because you also beat them already.
Okay, but you got to play them again.
Right, so that's a 1 game for now. It's a half game with the tie and another half for the head-to-head.
And the New York Giants, you have a 2-game lead.
Right, even though you lost to them. Yeah. So
but
that's what I mean.
Here's the deal. The Giants.
It's not dire. It's not dire yet.
I'm telling you, it's dire. The New York Giants, just real quick, by the way, are at Denver. Denver came off
very tough game.
A tough win against the New York Jets
very
in London.
Tough game for them.
Had to fly all the way back, so maybe they're a little winded this week.
Go ahead.
All right?
Go ahead.
Haven't been in Denver for over a week, so maybe the altitude gets to them. I don't know. Jackson Dart's the hottest thing since sliced bread in football. I'm just saying, if the Giants beat Denver, I don't expect them to. I want to be clear.
Let's say they do.
Let's just play it out.
Yeah.
If the New York Giants beat the Denver Broncos, and you lose to the Minnesota Vikings, you're in Minnesota.
That game could be for first place.
All of a sudden, you're now playing the New York Giants for first place in the NFC East. And the Giants, who remember back just 2 weeks ago when they throttled the Eagles.
They'll feel great.
Eagles barely crossed midfield in that game against the New York Giants, who got a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts, totally throttled Saquon Barkley. And while A.J. Brown finally had a couple more catches than he usually does, that passing game, to be fair, he overthrew Smith
wide
on
open,
a wide open broken coverage. So maybe that doesn't happen again. But you got doubled up by the New York Giants. So there is the possibility. This is what I'm telling you. It's dire for Philly. And I know what happens in Philly because I live there and I work there. When there's the smallest sense of a single drop of water in a drop of blood. I didn't sleep last night. A single drop of blood in the water. You know how it is in Philly. Panic sets in. It starts with the fan base. Then it goes to the team and the players and eventually ownership. But I'm telling you right now, if you don't beat the Minnesota Vikings Sunday at 1 o'clock and the New York Giants somehow, some way beat the Denver Broncos, forget about Dallas and Washington just for a moment, then next week's game is for first place no matter what anyone else does. And you're looking at the wrong side of being 0-2 against the Giants, a 500 football team, and people now jumping ship like the rats that they are. The Jalen Hurts hatred will be out of control in Philly on Sports Talk Radio. The Tanner McKee guys will be coming out of the woodwork. I told you Nick Sirianni wasn't the right guy for this team. Kevin Patullo's going to get fired. And all of a sudden, what looked like the start, or the potential start, of a legitimate NFC dynasty, and I'm the guy that said it, as much as I dislike Philadelphia, other than water, ice, and pretzels, I thought the Eagles were about to start a little mini dynasty.
They are.
Because everybody's under 30. All the key players you want are under 30 years old.
They're all under 30.
And yet here we are on the precipice of the Titanic.
It's not the Titanic.
The Eagle ship is taking on water.
Come on.
And Eagle fans don't know how to handle it.
Get out of here.
I want to be clear. I think the Eagles should beat the Minnesota Vikings by a touchdown or more.
I don't know if they will.
They're small favorites.
On the road.
And Carson Wentz is playing with 10 years of revenge building up inside his body. This is Carson Wentz's Super Bowl.
It is.
And if you don't think the players in that locker room want to win one for old Carson, you're wrong. They do. And what we've learned about Kevin O'Connell out there, and there's a lot of examples of this, that dude is the quarterback whisperer.
He is.
That dude turns average quarterbacks into damn good quarterbacks.
Look at Sam Darnold
and we're seeing it with Sam Darnold again, who is killing it right now in Seattle after the great year he had in Minnesota last year. But I can't wait I got the fireplace open, the flue's open, ready to go. I got extra popcorn. I got extra chips to make nachos.
I'm pouring water down that chip.
A close game in the fourth quarter. Carson Wentz leading Minnesota down the field, and then panic sets in.
This is ridiculous.
What was going to be a mini dynasty becomes a one and done. Woo! We got more show coming up right after this, including our weekly power rankings. Don't touch it.
Have you been watching Tua Tagovailoa's post-game press conferences where he basically is like, yeah, I'm getting paid, deal with it. By the way, how's the team? Nobody shows up to meetings, players-only meetings, people skip out. Nobody cares around here, and we lost again. Tua threw 3 interceptions. Yes, he's part of the problem. James Franklin got fired from Penn State, we'll talk about later. When is McDaniels getting shown the door? This team is ridiculous, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Tell the coordinators what you want. I just don't get it. I don't. These coaches are so chummy with each other that they don't want to throw their guy under the bus. You're getting paid the $10 million. He's not. Take a rein and change the game plan. Right. If it's not working and the offensive coordinator is not getting it done, you need to have input.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You love this segment. You nicknamed this segment. You sort of put your mark on it with the rats with the cash.
There's rats.
Right? And they're the garbage games. One of the games...
What are you saying, rats hang out in garbage? What's wrong with
you? Yeah, they do. Hang out in New York City. You'll see it.
A lot of rats in New York City. That's the way it is, man. Hey, we don't want to throw out any names out there. Exactly.
Philly, too. Yeah, we don't talk about that.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
You may be surprised, because I am, that the athlete in the world who has become the first billionaire is Cristiano Ronaldo. I did not know that, and I did not have that on my bingo card. So after his contract that he just signed, it means that he's the first athlete to ever earn $1 billion playing sports.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Hi, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyron A. Johnson here as well. Breaking news out of Detroit right now. Dan Campbell does a weekly radio spot on 97.1. I think it's called The Ticket.
The Ticket, yeah,
in
that's
Detroit,
right.
Okay? And this is a weekly thing, so it's not like a special interview they do, but he does a coach's show with them after every week. So if you just go back for a second, this has been a theme of our show a lot this week and for the last couple of years as well, about how the referees favor the Kansas City Chiefs, how the NFL favors the Kansas City Chiefs. Remember, in the Lions-Chiefs game on Sunday night, there were 0 penalties called against the Kansas City Chiefs. The week before, when they lost to Jacksonville, they got called for 13 penalties. They were looking at 2 and 4 right in the face coming into that game. The NFL can't have the Kansas City Chiefs being 2 and 4 and the season being a wrap before we get to Thanksgiving. So they rigged things. I'm convinced of it. The referees are told don't call penalties against Kansas City, and any chance you have to call certain penalties against the opposition, you should do it. And I think that's been proven with the UTEP study that we brought up yesterday. But here's the breaking news. When the Lions scored that opening drive touchdown on the trick play, where they threw the ball to Jared Goff on the left side, he kind of bobbled it, caught it, got into the end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions. It's called a touchdown on the field. As you pointed out, Tyrone, on Monday, 1 minute, 14 seconds elapsed in between touchdown on the field, and then all of a sudden, the referees are huddling together, and they decide that Jared Goff didn't set himself before going in motion. Therefore, it's illegal motion, and the touchdown gets taken off the board. All right? And I sat here with you on Monday, and I said, there's no way the NFL did not get involved in that. And everybody denied it. The officials denied it. The NFL denied it. We did not do, what do they call it again?
The replay assist.
We did not go to replay assist.
That's
Why?
what they said.
Because you're not allowed to go to replay assist for a penalty. That is the rule. If you get screwed on a penalty call, the NFL can't bail you out unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs. because Dan Campbell just said on an interview on the ticket in Detroit that the officials came to him after the game and told him that New York got involved, there was replay assist, and that's why the touchdown was called off the board. The NFL has denied that. But now Dan Campbell just told you what happened, that the official came to him and told him, because they were livid about it. Because it changes the whole game.
Complexity of the game.
7-0 versus 3-0 is a game changer.
Huge.
And it's the opening drive of the game that went damn near 10 minutes, and that's how you punctuate the drive with a touchdown on a really clever trick play, right? Mm-hmm. And we were told, no, the NFL would never get involved. You can't use replay assist to create penalties that weren't called or to overturn penalties that were called. Except the officials told Dan Campbell that the only reason they overturned it and the only reason there were 72 seconds of dead time in between touchdown and extra point or touchdown and then nullified touchdown was because the NFL New York picked up the phone, buzzed into the officiating crew, and told them overturn the touchdown. So I'm sick of talking about it, but here I am again because now you've got a smoking gun. Now you've got a head coach who, when asked to elaborate on that, said, I'm not allowed to. And that's where the conversation comes to an end. That's all. You can see it on Twitter. I'm sure it'll go viral very quickly. You are now learning that everything I've been saying about the NFL rigging games on behalf of Kansas City through the officials is happening in real time. The officials confirmed it to Dan Campbell. And now, look, I can't tell you that Detroit wins that game anyway, because the second half they got dominated by the Kansas City Chiefs. And you want to give the Chiefs credit for winning a tough game against what might be the NFC's best team. And sure, could be a Super Bowl matchup, right?
Could be.
But yet, how do you ignore this when it's the head coach of Detroit telling you that the officials told him that the play got reviewed by New York and the officiating crew at the game was told to overturn the touchdown and call the penalty? This is everything I've been talking about for years now, and certainly this week. This goes into the UTEP study that we talked about yesterday. This goes into the fact that there was not a single penalty called against the Kansas City Chiefs in that game against Detroit. And now it's even worse than that. Now we're overturning plays that the opponent has because we're desperate to make sure that Kansas City wins. Wow. Like, if you thought, by the way, if you thought Spygate was a big deal, and it was, if you thought Deflategate was a big deal, probably wasn't, then this is the biggest deal of all.
Right.
Because this is the NFL controlling the outcome of games to favor a team that they think they need to make it to a Super Bowl. This is everything wrong with the NFL as led by Roger Goodell.
We watch sports. In large part, we want to root for our local teams because we think the game is quote-unquote pure. What I mean by that is the players, by and large, decide the games. That's why we watch. Mm-hmm. That's why people, for example, don't watch wrestling. They don't watch wrestling because they know it's scripted.
Yep.
If the NFL in any way becomes scripted and we know about it, why would we watch it? The point of it is the Giants can upset the Eagles on a Thursday night.
Yep.
But if all of a sudden the NFL can decide, you know what, that scatterboat touchdown, that's coming back. Dart, calm down, that's coming back. If they can start doing that, why should we watch?
Especially, and then here's the other part of it, and it's the dirty part of it. You know, legalized wagering exists in 38 states in this country.
Yeah, it does.
People are betting billions and billions of dollars every weekend on the outcomes of NFL games. And if there's no integrity in the legitimate outcome of a game and the scores are being dictated by some shadow figures in the NFL executive offices on Park Avenue, then you got to know that. Because if that's what's happening, you got to stop wagering on football because the outcome is not being decided by the players on the field. And your Giants point's a great point. No one gave the Giants a prayer to beat Philly. But that's the beauty of sport.
Right.
That my 53 guys get paid like your 53 guys get paid. So I've got a shot by default to win any game I play. If I play the Eagles 100 times, I'd probably beat them 90. I lose 90.
Yeah,
but I'd get 10.
That was one of those 10.
Yeah.
And that was one of those 10.
And that's why we love sports, because on any given Sunday, any outcome can happen. Now that we know for a fact, at least through the mouth of Dan Campbell,
I don't think he's lying.
who is not a liar.
He's not lying.
Say what you want about Dan Campbell. That dude doesn't tell lies.
No.
And for him to even somewhat sheepishly, I heard it, say, I can't comment on that further. And he was asked, well, who confirmed that for you? And he acknowledged it was the officials. Mm-hmm. That when he was questioning, we just scored a touchdown. Why are we being forced to wait 1 minute and 14 seconds to kick the extra point? And then in that time frame, why is the play being overturned? You cannot create a penalty on review. You can see, did he have possession? Did he cross the line? All that stuff. And clearly he did, which is why it was called a touchdown. But now the NFL has got to respond to this. Because this is now the biggest story. And for me, what I've always thought in this amazing run the Kansas City Chiefs have had, and I said it again yesterday, they're good enough to win on merit, but the NFL doesn't trust them to. And that's the reality you have right now. The Kansas City Chiefs no longer win on merit alone. And that's a shame because they've got the best coach, the best quarterback, a Hall of Fame tight end, and the best defensive coordinator in football. And they don't need the NFL's help, where they shouldn't, to win games. But now you have this converging of facts. You have the UTEP study, which is an empirical data study, which proves that, for example, they get 45% more roughing the passer call that benefits them versus any other team in football. Now you've got Dan Campbell coming out telling you, the officials told me that we had, what's it called again? Replay assist? Replay assist from New York that overturned our touchdown and created a penalty that was not called by any official on the field. And then you add to it, well, how many penalties did they call in Kansas City in that game? And the answer is 0. This is all tangible, empirical data that cannot be argued against. The Kansas City Chiefs, and whether they ask for it or not doesn't matter. They're on the receiving end of beneficial treatment, preferential treatment from the NFL, and Dan Campbell just confirmed it. So great job by Dan. Great job by those guys in Detroit asking the right questions.
Absolutely on the ticket, yeah.
And now the NFL's caught red-handed. So you can no longer wager on Kansas City Chiefs games unless you're wagering on them, because their games are now fixed. What a shame. An absolute shame.
Oh, the best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reese, and his literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Baker Mayfield is the most important player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they are in first place right now, looking dead in the eye of home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They played a bad division. They're going to win a lot of games, and they're the best fourth quarter team, or at least the 2-minute warning team in all football. So, don't sleep on that.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Awesome and monumentous win against Oregon. Texas has saved their season. Texas has given themselves life to potentially crash the college football playoff party. For OU, a loss to Texas shouldn't be the end of your season. And yet with that remaining schedule, it feels like it could be. Books certainly pricing it that way. A lot of movement off of the Red River rivalry.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Paige or Caitlin? Who do you take and why?
I think for the WNBA, in a sense where they're moving toward more guards when it's been very post and big heavy in the past. But there's a reason why Caitlin Clark set all those records at college and then went into the WNBA and set all those records immediately. I really do think she's just a different level talent.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're Welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson here. Again, major scandal in the NFL. Dan Campbell has confirmed that the NFL replay assists in New York were the ones that overturned the Jared Goff touchdown in their loss against the Kansas City Chiefs. This now becomes, for me, the biggest NFL scandal in 25 years. This is bigger than Spygate, which was New England spying on other teams' practices. Even the Super Bowl against Philly that year. They did it against the New York Jets as well in the regular season. That was the Eric Mangini thing. You having left New England and came to New York, who accused them of it. Deflategate, which was I think, a lesser issue. You're deflating balls so you could throw them. Not good, but not a huge scandal.
Brady made that worse, destroying the phone.
Yeah.
He made that worse.
But if the NFL is now, tangibly proven to have invoked themselves into the outcome of a game by having their replay assist in New York City, which is there just to make sure calls are made right. A spot of the ball, a turnover, not penalties. They cannot review penalties. They cannot create penalties. But Dan Campbell just gave you the smoking gun. Again, the Kansas City Chiefs might have won that game anyway. The way they played in the second half, they were the better team. I want to be very clear about that. Now, when you look back on it, though, it's also easy to be the better team when you know the refs aren't going to call any penalties against you. And there were none, zero. They ended that game, 0 accepted penalties against the Kansas City Chiefs, right? And then when you add to it that you're going to have a 10-minute, 18-play drive that culminates in a touchdown, only to have that touchdown taken off the board because New York invoked themselves into the play, well, how can you compete then? You can't. This becomes the biggest scandal in the NFL. You could make the argument of all time. Right? Because there hasn't been a serious, significant gambling scandal, which would be the next biggest scandal, or point shaving or throwing games, which is going to happen at some point because there's too many people gambling for it not to happen. And there are guys active in the NFL today, as a fact, that are gambling on NFL games. They just haven't been caught yet. But it is happening in every sport, not just the NFL. And I know what I'm talking about because I was a compulsive gambler. I am a compulsive gambler. And I also educate leagues and teams and coaches and players about the dangers of irresponsible gambling. All right, so I know what I'm talking about on this. And I just spoke at the NBA Rookie Symposium to every single NBA rookie about gambling and the dangers of gambling when you get to the league, right? But this becomes the biggest scandal, arguably in NFL history. That I'm watching the Detroit Lions Kansas City Chief game. I'd like to think I'm watching two of the best teams in football, and I give Kansas City credit. They've rebounded great from their slow 0-2 start. And they are going to get Rashee Rice back here shortly. We'll get to him in a second. But they don't need the extra help. I know that you've got the most marquee guy playing quarterback for them, the guy that you market everything around. You should. He's a great quarterback and a great guy, by the way. Like, he's the perfect spokesperson for the NFL. Does everything right.
Clean cut, no issues at all.
He even got his brother to shut up.
Yep, he did.
And he got his dad to stop doing stupid stuff. He's the perfect, spokesperson, pardon me, for the NFL. But man, if the NFL is now reaching out to referees mid-game and telling them to call a penalty that was not called, that affects a scoring play, a turnover, what have you, that's a scandal. Now you've thrown all the integrity you thought you had right out of the window. Now I can't trust the outcome of games because I don't know what the NFL thinks about it. The NFL might feel like, hey, look, we really don't want, I don't know, the Jaguars and the Colts in the playoffs because they're not big. We can't market them.
Right.
So all of a sudden, are the Texans now going to start getting the benefit of invented calls because we'd rather talk about C.J. Stroud than Danny Jones? I'm making that up.
Yeah, but possible.
But
Houston
how could
market.
I now start thinking that?
Houston's a bigger market.
Yeah, bigger market.
Yeah.
More recognizable quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? Rookie of the year 2 years ago. So this is a real problem for me. And again, for everyone that yells and screams at me and curses me out and reminds me of the worst moment of my life on X every day of the week, this is now proof that I've been right all along.
You were.
I've been right all along, And there is no defense for you attacking me or suggesting that I'm just a jealous Jet fan. I am a jealous Jet fan. I've always known that. You show me a team that wins, I'm by default envious and jealous of a team that shows how to play competent football. But I never thought in my lifetime that Kansas City needed the NFL's help.
They don't, but...
And that's the point. Yeah. They don't. Kansas City can win a lot of games on merit. The NFL doesn't trust them to, so the NFL's now just tipping the scales a little bit. Tipping the scales. And it's wrong. It's a scandal. And this should be the only story in sports for the next 72 hours.
I agree. Now, let's talk about the commissioner for one moment. We know that the owners have loved him in large part because he's just a rubber stamp for those owners. Well, now, if he's skewing games for one specific team,
yes,
could this be maybe the first time where Goodell would be vulnerable that this now gets out? Because if I'm Jeff Lurie, if I'm the Jets, Giants, or everybody else, I can't be okay with my commissioner rigging something for one team.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I've just started reading DeMaurice Smith's book, the former NFL PA head, and he's going to come in here, I think it's next week, and spend an hour with us talking about his experience running the NFL Players Association. Roger Goodell's a mouthpiece for the owners.
Right,
You're dead on right about that. But Clark Hunt, or who's the new Hunt that runs as a Clark?
I think Clark is the new one. I think it was
the Hunt family are not regarded as important owners in the NFL. I've learned that from reading DeMaurice's book. They don't have their voice is not valued when NFL owners get together.
His father was Lamar. It is Clark now. It is Clark.
So we'll find out. But to me, this is the worst possible scenario for the NFL because they did it Sunday night, Detroit, Kansas City, which also tells you that ain't the first time.
No way.
They've been doing it, and I can prove that to you by showing you the UTEP study. Like this is now, I like the word empirical. It makes me sound smart. There's now data that backs up everything I've been saying. This isn't just an angry, upset fan yelling and screaming about Kansas City's success. This is now provable. This is now like court of law provable stuff. Your Honor, here's the document. You can't argue against it. And now you've got the head coach, Dan Campbell, who's a known honest teller, telling you the referee told me that they created the penalty from New York. They were told by New York, call that penalty.
Right. He's an honest teller.
Like,
truth teller.
Outside of fixing games by players, this is the biggest scandal this sport has ever had.
It is.
Yeah. How much time I got here? 10 seconds?
Yeah, you counted down.
I didn't get to my Power 5 yet today. We got time. We got time. We got time and some news and notes. Lots more coming up. Scandalous Wednesday.
Have you been watching Tua Tagovailoa's post-game press conferences where he basically like, yeah, I'm getting paid, deal with it. By the way, how's the team? Nobody shows up to meetings, players-only meetings, people skip out. Nobody cares around here, and we lost again. Tua threw 3 interceptions. Yes, he's part of the problem. James Franklin got fired from Penn State, we'll talk about later. When is McDaniels getting shown the door? This team is ridiculous, Joe.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Tell the coordinators what you want. I just don't get it. I don't. These coaches are so chummy with each other that they don't want to throw their guy under the bus. You're getting paid the $10 million. He's not. Take a rein and change the game plan. Right. If it's not working and the offensive coordinator is not getting it done, you need to have input.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You love this segment. You nicknamed this segment. You sort of put your mark on it with the rats with the cash.
There's rats.
Right? And they're the garbage games. One of the games...
What are you saying, rats hang out in garbage? What's wrong with
you? Yeah, they do. Hang out in New York City. You'll see it.
A lot of rats in New York City. That's the way it is, man. Hey, we don't want to throw out any names out there. Exactly.
Philly, too. Yeah, we don't talk about that.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
You may be surprised, because I am, that the athlete in the world who has become the first billionaire is Cristiano Ronaldo. I did not know that, and I did not have that on my bingo card. So after his contract that he just signed, it means that he's the first athlete to ever earn $1 billion playing sports.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyrone Johnson here as well. Only about 5 minutes to go, so let me squeeze a lot in here. We got our Power 5 rankings in the NFL.
Okay.
Want them real quick?
Yeah, sure.
All right, coming in at number 5, the LA Rams. All right, LA Rams, I think a legitimate threat out there in the NFC. And with San Francisco having all their problems, it's going to be a battle between Seattle and the Rams right now for that division. No disrespect to Shanahan or Saleh, but, man, they got injuries across the board again.
Everybody's hurt.
Coming in at number 4 are the aforementioned Detroit Lions. You know, if Detroit wasn't playing against the referees, the NFL, and Kansas City, I don't know.
They might be number 1. They might be number 1.
But they got dropped down a little bit because
they did lose.
They did lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. I still wouldn't sleep on Detroit going all the way this year. Number 3, first time in the Power 5. Love Coach McDonald. Love that Seattle defense. And Sam Darnold is balling.
They're a good football team.
Good football team. Now, San Fran beat them week 1, so they got a little advantage over them. Mm-hmm. But Seattle right now, third best team for my money in the NFL. Staying in the NFC, number 2, I think they've got the guy that should be right now the favorite as of today to win the MVP, and that's Baker Mayfield in Tampa, doing it with literally fifth-string wide receivers. As much as I love Tez Johnson, and I do, fifth-string wide receiver somehow finds a way to win. Tampa, only 1 loss this year. They are the best team in the NFC in the moment. Obviously, this changes every week. And for the first time ever, the number 1 team in the Carton Show Power 5 are the Indianapolis Colts. All they do is win. They damn near never punt. They can run the ball. Taylor's a badass. They're getting great quarterback play right now out of Daniel Jones. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They have a good defense, a little bit above average, getting better. They're very well coached, and they are right now the best team in the AFC. I know a lot of people think about Kansas City. I can't have them in my top 5.
3-3.
We need the NFL to help them win games.
Yeah, and 3-3. That's not.
They're a 500 team. I know right now that they're amongst the favorites in Vegas.
Yeah.
That's
long haul. That's not right now.
I'm talking right now in the moment. That's why this changes every single week. But one more time: Colts 1, Tampa 2, Seattle 3, Detroit 4, and the Rams at number 5. And those are your undisputed Power 5 rankings in the NFL.
One thing that I thought was actually good was Danny Dimes, I guess he's back to that again, actually had a turnover and he didn't implode. Yeah. If things were going almost too well, he turns the ball over. It was a bad pick. The next drive, they go down and score a touchdown.
Yeah, and they're calling him Indiana Jones now. They don't like that. Danny Dimes.
I'm not doing Indiana Jones. He's Danny Dimes forever.
Number 2, real quick. Dave Roberts learned a valuable lesson after Game 1 when he took Blake Snell out and went to Sasaki to try to close out Game 1. Last night, Yamamoto, who had few pitches, to be fair. He wasn't over 100. Right. I think Snell was at 103 when he got pulled for the 9th inning. Yamamoto did something you never see, and you certainly don't see in the postseason. Dude threw a complete game gem. Yes, that game was not competitive at all. Hits. He was slinging it last night, and the Dodgers take a 2-0 series lead. Yamamoto goes complete game.
Yeah, 3 hits and four hits for the Brewers through 2 games. That's a playoff low ever.
And by the way, they're doing it without Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani is 1 for his last 23 with 11 strikeouts. It shows you how deep the Dodgers are, and he's their leadoff hitter.
Right.
So he ain't getting on base.
Doesn't matter.
All he's doing is striking out, and he ain't hitting home runs.
Doesn't matter.
Yet they're still up 2-0 against the Milwaukee Brewers. Still a long series to go. Number 2, number 3. Rashee Rice is coming back, but can someone just remind Rashee Rice that we don't want the inspirational video showing his workouts as he prepares to get back on the NFL field? You're not coming back from a torn ACL.
No.
You're not coming back from a hammy. You're coming back from nearly killing people by driving your car 150 miles per hour and saying, yes, Your Honor, I'm guilty, to multiple felonies, including leaving the scene of the accident.
Right.
So we don't want to see the violins playing and the videos of your hard work. I respect it. I know coming back and not playing for the first month and a half, 2 months, you got to get in the gym, you got to do the work. No one's saying you're lazy, but ain't nobody like, oh, I feel so, look at Rashee Rice putting in that work.
Rooting for that kid.
Yeah, you're not coming back from an injury. I want to be clear about that. You're coming back from almost killing people.
Right.
That's what you're coming back from. So he is coming back. And I do want to say this one more time just to end the show, I think, on the appropriate note. Former New York Jets everything. Mr. Nick Mangold, who played his entire career for the Jets, is in their Ring of Fame. Came out publicly yesterday that he is known about for a long time. He has a medical defect in his body that renders his kidneys now unusable. So he's on a list. He needs a kidney transplant. Unfortunately, no close relatives are a match. He's type O blood. And if you're thinking about anything today, maybe also send a thought and a prayer out to Nick and his family. He's got great kids, young kids at home as well. And he needs an organ. And if you're of that mind, certainly consider, not just for Nick, but anyone out there that's on that list that needs an organ replacement, that you'd consider being a donor. So Godspeed to Nick Mangold. Thank you so much for watching. We'll flip it and do it again tomorrow at 11 right here on SportsGrid.